Okay, you know what we need to do right now? We need to square the foundation. Okay, what's up everybody? All right, so welcome to our series on everything you need to know about how to build a house. Okay, so this episode is going to deal with how to put your floor on a foundation. Okay, so we're going to be talking a lot about squaring, how to square your foundation. Okay, so in order to start this conversation, we need to understand how they put a foundation in the ground. Okay, so let's start there. Okay, here we are down beside a foundation that hasn't been backfilled yet, or the dirt hasn't been placed against the foundation yet, okay? So now, pretty much every foundation on a house that's built, at least in North America, starts with a footing. Okay, so this is your footing here, all right? It's usually about 16 inches wide, and it's a nice big flat surface that they put the concrete walls on, okay? Now what happens is when you have this footing, the carpenter or the cribber will come along and will snap lines on this footing, okay? When this person snaps those lines, they square the house, okay? They square it perfectly. And on top of those lines, they put concrete forms, okay? These concrete forms go from the squared lines all the way up vertically. Okay, now this is why we're talking about this. This is important to know. When they put these concrete forms up, they just plumb those forms, okay? So they put their level and they plumb them vertical, okay? So the reason we're talking about this is because when they go from those snapped lines on the footing way up vertical, sometimes it's 9 feet, okay? When they go up that high, sometimes the squareness and the plumbness of those forms can be just a little bit out. So that's why when you're going to put your wood on top of this concrete foundation, you need to re-square the house. Okay, I'm standing above where I was standing before, okay? I was like 7 feet down here. Now the house is backfilled and we're ready to put the floor on the foundation, but we need to square it first. Okay, so we've already put our sill gasket down and we've capped the sill gasket with 3/8. So the sill gasket goes on the concrete and then 3/8 on top of that. Now, in your jurisdiction, it could be a little different. You put the sill gasket down and then a treated board. In this jurisdiction, this is what we do. So it could be different in your area. So the first thing what we want to do, okay, is we want to get an idea where our foundation is. Just a basic idea. We're not squaring. We're seeing if it's a little big, if it's a little small. We're not going to triangulate it yet, okay? So let's get the tapes out and take a quick measurement. Right there? It's good there. Again, a quarter big. Okay, so we've just taken some general measurements of the foundation. Now the reason we're doing that is because the foundation typically has some imperfections in it. It might be a little bit small or a little bit big compared to what it's supposed to be. That always happens. That's normal. So what we do is we try to keep all of the imperfections to the back of the house, okay? So let's say the foundation is a little bit big. Okay, so what we're gonna do is there's gonna be a floor on top of here. We're gonna keep the floor flush at the front and we're gonna have that imperfection at the back, okay? So that's why we do that. Now, another thing is you might see some old-time carpenters on YouTube telling you how to square a foundation, and they're awesome, don't get me wrong, but what they do is they just check the foundation for square, okay? And then they go with it, okay? That's not what we do. The problem with that is when you have, say, a 10-foot wall or a 12-foot or a 15-foot wall, we make that exactly 15 feet. Okay, we don't make it a little bigger. We don't make it a little smaller to match the foundation. We make it that size. Secondly, if you just go with the foundation and don't snap any lines, how are you going to keep a really long wall straight? It's a pain, okay? So what we do is we snap lines on the inside of whatever it is that we're putting on the foundation. Okay, so you following me? Now let's say you're putting a wall on the foundation. Well, you're gonna measure the width of that wall, whatever it is. Let's say a 2x6 or with 3/8 plywood on it. That's 5 7/8. You're gonna snap a line on the inside of that, okay? In this case on the house, what we have here is we have some trim ply that is gonna measure 2 3/8 wide, okay? And then going down this way, we have a small 2x4 pony wall that is a 2x4 and 3/8 plywood. So that's 3 7/8. Okay, so we have 2 3/8 and 3 7/8 here. Okay, now we always add a 1/16 for the line. Okay, so just think about that. You're putting the rim ply down, you want to be able to see the line. Okay, so if your product that you're putting here is 2 3/8, we make it 2 3/8 plus a 1/16 or 2 7/16. Okay, in this case, we have 3 7/8. We're gonna add a 1/16, so a 1/16 less than 4 inches, okay? So that's how we square. We square with these inside lines that we snap, all right? Now, the starting point. Where's our starting point? The starting point is gonna be the longest wall you have on the foundation. Now, you'll notice here, you're gonna see in the video, this is just a rectangle. This is like the easiest foundation to square, and we did that on purpose. But the same rules apply if you're doing a 20,000 square foot mansion, okay? You always start with the longest wall, okay? Then you can measure everything off of it, okay? Now, sometimes you don't have a really long wall to go off and you have to do something else. But typically, you find the longest wall and you start there. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're gonna start by snapping a line at 2 3/8 plus a 1/16 all the way down here. I'm gonna go 2 3/8. Okay. Okay, so now we've got our 2 3/8 plus or 2 7/16 line snapped all the way down. And this is where the rim ply is gonna go. So we're gonna be able to keep this rim ply nice and straight, and we have something to measure off, okay? So now we have this little pony wall going back this way. Okay, so we're gonna measure in the width of the pony wall. So that's 3 7/8. We're gonna add a 1/16. Okay, so 3 15/16 here. Okay, we got a mark there. Okay, so now we're gonna start the squaring process, and we're gonna square a line off of that line that we just snapped. Okay, now, we're gonna get James to hold the tape measure at the 2 3/8 plus on that line that we just snapped, okay? And we're gonna mark. The house is 18 feet wide, okay? So he's holding it at 2 7/16. We're gonna go 18 feet, and we're gonna go back 2 7/16 and put a mark, okay? So that's right here. Okay, so we need that mark. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get James to hold the tape measure on that snapped line. Now we could do this with math. You can just figure out what it is, or we can just measure it. So we're gonna measure it here, and it's 17 foot 7 1/8. And that's from that snapped line that we have to the mark that I just made. So let's measure that, put that measurement down, 17, 7 1/8. Very important. Okay, so what do we have now? We've got a line all the way down here at 3 7/16 plus, okay? We've measured in a mark here at 3 7/8 plus, okay? And we want to get a line going down this way perfectly at 90 degrees. Okay, that's what we're trying to do. So how do we do that? Well, we've already got a mark down there at 17 foot 7 1/8. okay? So we know that mark. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get another mark down here, and you don't have to go all the way to the end, okay? We're trying to get a perfectly triangulated or 90-degree angle here. So you don't have to go all the way down. Let's pick 30 feet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our tape measure and we're gonna measure and put a mark 30 feet from the inside of our pony wall here. Then once we get that mark at 30 feet, we're gonna figure out what the triangulation is, okay? So let's do that. Got it? Okay, so I have my calculator out. We have two measurements now, right? We have 30 feet, okay, so we just measured that. So let's go 30 feet, rise. Okay, and what was the other measurement that we did? 17, 7 and an eighth. So we're gonna go 17 foot, 7 inch, 1/8 run, okay? So what do we want? A perfectly square angle. The diagonal is going to be 34 foot 9 and 5/16. Okay, so let's go measure it. Five, 9, and you don't even have to mark. Okay, so you're good there? Are you good there, James? Yep. Okay, so what I've done is I've marked that the hypotenuse of our 90-degree triangle, okay? And I've marked it where it comes in contact with the 17 foot 7 and an eighth, okay? So now, if I snap a line right here where those two meet, that's gonna be a perfectly 90-degree angle. So let's go and snap that. I'll have to edit that. All right. Okay, so did you follow it there? So what did we do? What we have is we snapped the line here perfectly straight at 2 and 7/16, and we snapped another line at 3 and 7/8 plus going down this way, and these two lines are perfectly square off each other. Okay? Now there's a couple different things you could have done differently than what I did. You could have measured all the way down to the exact end of the house there and triangulated it from there. That's a good thing to do, and we do that sometimes. I just didn't do it in this time because I want to keep it a little simpler, okay? The other thing is you don't have to go all the way down to the end there either. Now I saw this old carpenter, and he had like a big wall that he was doing, and he only did a 3, 4, 5. He only went 4 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet out like this far to check how square it is, right? And you can't do that. You need to get almost the full encompassing of the house, okay? As big as you can. That way it's gonna be as accurate as possible. Okay, so now what do we have? We've got two square lines, and we can measure all the rest of the house off of these lines because we know they're square. So we can trust it, okay? So let's snap the rest of our lines and measure from these two lines. Right there? Let's go all the way to the end. Oh, we got this marked already. You good? Good? Okay, so doesn't that feel good? Your house is perfectly square now. And the measurements are what they're supposed to be, okay? They're exactly like it is on the plan. And that's what you should do, okay? If the plan says a 15-foot wall, make it a 15-foot wall, okay? And make your house as square as you possibly can. Now, I have heard rumors that some people just come to foundations when they're going to put a floor on, and they just measure in whatever it is that they're putting on the floor, say rim ply or a pony wall. They just measure in and snap a line and go for it. They don't measure the length of the wall, and they also don't measure for squareness. I would say take some pride in the fact that you're a carpenter, okay? And enjoy what you do. This is your career, and so, you know, make your house square. It's just makes everything so better. Okay, so I know that was a little heavy. I hope you enjoyed it. And I know there's still unanswered questions here, but I hope you got something out of this, and that is how to square a house and put a square, whatever it is you're putting on the foundation, on it. Okay, I screwed up the end.